Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Catel. Welcome to another episode of Basic Nigerian History. Now, last episode, we spoke about the Benin Kingdom. One thing we mentioned was that the origin story of the kingdom was mixed with that of the Yoruba lands, but we didn't fully explain how. Well, you're in luck because in this episode, we're going to discuss those same Yoruba lands in the form of the Oyo Empire. Let's get started. Let's begin with the origin story for the Oyo Empire. It is said that the land of Ife was founded by oduduwa, even though people had been living there since the 9th century. Some legends say it came from God or even Mecca. Other legends agree that it was a prince from the Edo Benin kingdom, even though they still see him as a god. Now, there are two versions as to how Ife, the land of Ife, was founded. The first version is that the god Obataala was already in the land, but then he was invaded by a group led by oduduwa and defeated. The second version is according to the Yoruba religion, which says that the supreme god Olodumare had sent Obataala, who was the king of the orishas, to create land after he had already created the Yoruba people. Now, Obataala agreed, but somehow he discovers palm wine on his way and he proceeds to get drunk on palm wine and fall asleep. So Oduduwa, his younger brother, comes to finish the job and replaces him with the blessings from Olodumare. And because of this, there is everlasting conflict between Oduduwa and Obataala. I'll leave it up to you to decide which of the stories are more likely to be true. Anyways, by the 12th century, Ife had become a regional power and had built labor-intensive roads as well as elaborate bronze sculptures. Ile-Ife, which means the land of Ife, became the center of the Yoruba identity and gained spiritual importance because of Oduduwa. The Oni of Ife, also known as the king of Ife, served as a spiritual leader for other communities. Now, if you remember in the last episode, we mentioned that oranmiyan, who was the son or the grandson of Oduduwa, left Ife to return to Igodo, the Edo state, but after having a baby, he then left and came back to the land of Ife. Well, soon after he came back to the land of Ife, he only just packed up his stuff and left to go to Oyo. And in Oyo, he married another woman and this time gave birth to two sons. The two sons were Ajaka and Shango. He left Ajayi in charge. To be honest, this guy, I don't understand him. Like, he needs to make up his mind. He keeps going to places, having babies and leaving and coming back. Anyways, he left Ajayi and just returned to the land of Ife. Ajayi became the first Ile-Ife of Oyo, and all subsequent kings, therefore, were direct descendants of God, because they were descendants from oranmiyan, who was descendants from Oduduwa, who was descendants from Olodumare. So all subsequent kings therefore had a divine right to rule. By the 14th century, Oyo had grown into a formidable inland power, and by the end of this century, it had begun expanding its borders at the expense of its neighbors. One of these neighbors were the Nupe people. And in 1535, the Nupe people flipped. They were like, no, we're not having it. They invaded and occupied Oyo, forcing the royal family to take refuge in the Bogu lands to the west, and they sacked and destroyed Oyo as a regional power until the 17th century. In the late 16th century, under Ajayi, Oyo defeated the Nupe and reclaimed the land of the Oyo people. He held the first Bere festival, an event to celebrate peace in the kingdom. The festival will be held regularly for many years to come. In the early 17th century, after defeating the Nupe people, the people of Oyo re-established Oyo as a more centralized and expansive power than before. They were like, now we're really going to show you people who the true boss is. Oyo became the most populous Yoruba kingdom. Their key strength was in a stronger military core, cavalry and armor. They even tried to conquer the Benin Empire, but they failed multiple times. However, to secure their borders, they left buffer areas autonomous. This basically means they ensured the lands between the two empires remained independent, so that neither the Oyo Empire or the Benin Kingdom could claim the lands. The Oyo Empire made their money through the trading ecosystem, and subjugated states were paying tributes to them. They also got lots of wealth by heavily taxing both the Hausa traders and the forest zone traders trying to pass through the Oyo territory. In the end, most merchants found it more economically beneficial to sell the wares directly to Oyo instead of passing through. Now, let's just give you a quick breakdown of how the Oyo Empire was set up. The leader of the empire was the Ile-Ife, which basically translates to the owner of the palace or the king of the palace. The Aremo, which means the eldest son of the king, was the king of the general public, as the Ile-Ife rarely left the palace. So the Aremo would deal with general public matters, but if it was matters that was taken care of in the palace, the Ile-Ife would deal with it. The Ile-Ife had supreme authority and could make policy decisions, settle disputes between sub-rulers, and order executions and create or give titles. He also had the Ile-Ife at his disposal. The Ile-Ife were eunuchs that acted as both spies and tax collectors for the empire. But the Ile-Ife wasn't all powerful. The Oyo were a check on his power. They were a council of politicians that were supposed to act as the voice of politicians or noblemen and also speak up for the interests of the empire. At the beginning of the empire, the Aremo used to succeed his father to the throne, but this led to some sons hastening the deaths of their fathers. So it was decided that the Oyo would select the next Ile-Ife. The Ile-Ife couldn't be legally deposed, so if the Oyo weren't happy with the performance of the Ile-Ife, they had to compel him to commit suicide. Now I bet you're thinking, oh my god, how did they do that? Well, this was done through an annual festival called the Orun Festival, where the Oyo would decide if they approved of the Ile-Ife's behavior and decision-making skills over the past year. If they were happy, the Bashorun, who was the leader of the Oyo would present the Ile-Ife with an empty calabash. This signified that everything was cool and it didn't have to worry. However, if they decided that they no longer approved of the king, the Bashorun would present the Ile-Ife with a dish of parrot egg and say, the gods reject you, the people reject you, and the earth reject you. Obviously, he wouldn't say it in English, he would say it in Yoruba. But this would signify that the Ile-Ife should now commit suicide. The Aremo, who was the oldest son of the Ile-Ife, and the Asamu, who was the Ile-Ife's personal counselor, would also have to commit suicide along with him in order to completely renew the government. The Oyo compelled many Ile-Ife to commit suicides during the 17th and 18th century, and once they got rid of one, they went about trying to find another one. They tended to select a weak Ile-Ife after the reign of a strong one in order to stop the office of the Ile-Ife from being too powerful. The Bashorun had final say on nominations of the new Ile-Ife, which gave him great power, and he was also the commander-in-chief of the army. You will see how this become a problem in a future episode when we meet a Bashorun that single-handedly weakens and destabilizes the empire because of his greed for power. The Ogboni were a council of old and distinguished religious importance free men. They were supposed to be the voice of the general people and represented popular opinion. They also had the authority in religion and were greatly respected. They were responsible for judging any case that involved bloodshed, and their leader, Dioluwo, had the right of direct access to the Ile-Ife at any time. The empire was divided into 4 layers. The first layer was the original Oyo state, the hub of the empire. It was split into 6 provinces, 3 on the west of the Ogun River and 3 on the east. Each province had a governor appointed by the Ile-Ife, and they spoke Yoruba in the Oyo dialect. The second layer were the Yoruba lands to the south. These were the towns that were closest to the Oyo state, and they spoke Yoruba in a different dialect to that of the Oyo people. They paid tribute to the empire, and their own rulers were called Obas. Each Oba also had to be confirmed by the Ile-Ife. The third layer was the Egbado corridor, which was southwest of the Yoruba land, inhabited by the Egba and the Egbado people. Its job was to ensure Oyo's trade with the coast. They were also allowed to be independent like the Yoruba lands as long as they paid tributes. They were supervised by agents of the Ile-Ife known as Ajele or Ajele, whichever one. And the fourth and final layer was the Aja land. It was the last to be added to the empire and was the furthest from the empire as well as the most resistive. It stretched from the west of the Egbado corridor into Ewe, which is in modern-day Togo, and had to be kept in line with regular threats. They were also allowed a fair degree of independence, so long as they paid their taxes to the empire. Oyo punished any disobedience from the Aja land by wholesale slaughter of their communities. Oyo was ruthless. And that's it for the Oyo Empire for now. We're obviously going to come back during the transatlantic slavery era and find out more about the Oyo Empire. But let's just do a recap of what we learned. We learned that the Oyo Empire had a complicated governing structure, which allowed them to manage such a large amount of land, despite the fact that most of the travel and trade was done by foot. The empire was big and extended past modern-day Nigeria, past Benin, all the way into Togo. This is why till today, you will still find Yoruba-speaking people in these lands. Next episode, we're going to learn about, I don't know. Let's find out. This is Dr. Catel signing out. I just wanted to say that thank you guys for your support, and please keep it up. Share it with your friends. Make sure they like it. Subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Also, if you go to www.patreon.com/Vonu Creative, you will see madness. Check it.